Yes? All right. So how to practice more efficiently now? I have been practicing since I was a kid, and I have learned various ways to practice. And a lot of it I learned because I freelanced in New York City for many years, and I often played brand new music that no one had played before, and I had to learn it quickly and perform it under pressure. So without realizing it, I learned some ways to learn music, challenging music really quickly. And when I started teaching full time at university age, I noticed that I realized that people didn't really know how to practice efficiently. It just sort of hit me like, wow. And people often say to me, yeah, I don't think anyone ever really told me how to practice, like what to practice, what I should have ready for my lesson, but how should I practice it? So probably over 10 years ago, I started looking into this and writing down, well, what do I do that works? What do other people do that works? And created a document. So this document's now 8 pages long, organized into sections. If anybody wants that, please let me know. My email, if you'd like to email me and ask for that or anything, is nuoboe@gmail.com. That's spelled Nuoboe, Nuoboe@gmail.com. So please send me any messages. And then last year, I developed a PowerPoint and a presentation that this is a version of to present to a festival where I work in the summer. And so here we are. We're going to talk about, I just want to tell you some sources of my information are also books and websites. I'm going to tell you some examples. Jeff Colvin's Talent is Overrated is a book. Chick Benson-Halley, Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. That's a very popular book, The Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience. James Lohr, The New Toughness Training for Life. That's a very popular book that it's for sports, but many musicians use it as a tool for how to practice well. The New Toughness Training for Life. Green Galway, The Inner Game of Music. That one's been around for many years. Don Green, Audition Success, Performance Success. Those are 2 books specifically about how to be prepared well for auditions. The 1948 book by Harrigal, Zen and the Art of Archery, is a classic book. A lot of musicians ask their students to read Zen and the Art of Archery. I've read various studies about deliberate practice, about interleaved practice, what I call cross-training, educational psychology. If you Google music, performance psychology, efficient practice, there's lots on the web. I've looked at that. There are websites that I'm sure many of you know. Bulletproofmusician.com, fantastic resource. Musiciansway.com, another rich resource. Violinists.com, thestrad.com, various Facebook feeds, TED Talks, of course. And of course, my experience over my career, my practicing, my own rehearsing, performing, recording, and teaching. So I'm going to talk about 2 kinds of practice. There's the practice that are for your fundamentals, scales, 1-5-1, octaves, arpeggios, scales and thirds, long tones. That's one kind of practice. And the other kind of practice is the practice we do to learn material that we have to rehearse and perform. Why is it important to do regular fundamentals practice? The obvious reasons is that Mozart is made up of scales and arpeggios, and so if you can't play a scale well just on its own, what are the chances you're going to play it easily in Mozart? Of course, so we practice scales every day and arpeggios every day. But another reason that I want to emphasize is that this is the time in your personal practice. It might be just 15 minutes a day. It might be 30 minutes a day. Scales, long tones, arpeggios, octaves. It might be 5 minutes, I don't know. But this is the time when you can focus on how do you feel? Are you holding extra tension that you don't need to? Is my head balanced? What am I paying attention to? Are my fingers moving beautifully? Could I keep them closer to the keys? How do I feel emotionally? You know, for me, it's really a meditation, and that's the time when you're doing the memorized patterns when you can tweak your technique, where you can improve your habits, where you can choose to do something differently. When we're playing music, our attention is more likely to be focused on the music, you know, the F sharp, this is coming up, that coming up, am I in tune? So I think to really take advantage of that kind of a meditative, beautiful time with yourself and your instrument, to tweak your relationship with your body, your use of the body, and your thinking. So that's where you can really improve your technique. I would go so far as to say you can't really improve your technique when you're practicing Poulenc or Mozart. There's just too many things going on. So when you notice an issue in playing something successfully in a Poulenc sextet, just make a little workshop for it. Take it out of the Poulenc, work on the technique you need, and then when you have it all ready, then you drop it into the piece, all ready, so that you keep the piece pure. So then the kind of practice where we need to learn new skills in order to walk out on stage and play, or on Zoom and play, we're going to talk about that. That practice needs three main qualities I'm going to emphasize as I present this to you. Structure, variety, and quality. If your practice is structured, if it has a variety of different approaches, like 5 or 6, and if it's high quality, that's good practice. Structure, let's go through each one. The human brain loves structure. Games are highly structured. Even dinner is structured. Everything you like, video games, extremely structured. Sporting events, very structured. We love structure. And therefore, we really dislike, the brain doesn't do well when there's a lack of structure. Part of what we struggle with today now is that we've got so little structure. How do you get motivated? We can talk about that. Human brains love structure. So when you sit down to practice, if you just sort of like, I'm going to practice, we all know it's not a very good feeling. It's sort of frustrating. Your mind wanders. What are you going to do? I don't know. So to have structure, we'll talk about how to do that. But just as a general overriding principle, is my practice structured? Yes. So if that's the answer, you're in good shape. Variety. Playing something over and over and hoping it gets better, doesn't work very well. It is not efficient. What is efficient, and we'll talk about details, is practicing something in many different ways. And one of them is the way it goes in concert. But variety. Is my practice varied? Am I doing this all different ways, or am I doing it the same way over and over, hoping it gets better? If you're doing it in many different ways, great, that's good practice. Quality. Your subconscious has no idea that what you're doing is right or wrong. Your subconscious is going to learn whatever you do. So if you play something wrong 3 times and then right once and think, I've got it. No, you don't. You just played it 3 times wrong. Your subconscious figures, okay, that's how we do it. You got it. Play that F sharp. So to try to ensure, this is the way I think about it, your practice should be everything you want on stage with you. It's curious, it's fun, it's joyful, it's smart, it's organized, it's accurate, it's expressive. So anything, here's a rule of thumb, anything you're doing that you don't want on stage with you, replace it with something you want on stage with you. Yeah? Even if you're just playing 5 times more slowly. Yeah, you're doing it great though. Excellent, excellent. It's accurate, it's fun, it's interesting, it's joyful. So structure, variety, quality. And the humility to realize, I have the humility to realize, and I think we all should, that your impulse to practice this way or that way probably isn't optimal. You're a brilliant person, but nobody falls off the turnip truck practicing efficiently. It's really something we need to learn. So just to have that realization that I know that's your impulse, but let's look at science and what our mentors from the last couple of centuries have advised. That's what I'm hoping to share some of that with you. Attendant to that, it's tempting to switch to the final product. It's right there in front of you on your piano, on your music stand, isn't it? Okay, let's play it that way. No. We need first to assemble the ingredients. It's just like if you want to bake a great apple pie. You don't have all the ingredients for great, great, great world-class apple pie in your kitchen right now, probably. You have to go get them. And then we have the ingredients, and then carefully in a structured way assemble them to what will become a great apple pie. So that's kind of what we're doing to practice. You're not practicing the finished apple pie. You're practicing cinnamon. You're practicing flour. You're practicing apples. You're practicing whatever goes into an apple pie. So here, let's get into the specifics. One powerful approach that if you just use this new technique in the future, I guarantee you will dramatically improve your practice efficiency. Cross-training. It's what scientists call interleaved practice. Interleaved versus blocked. Blocked practice means in blocks, where you practice Mozart for 25 minutes and just kind of go over and over and over, and it's going to get better and better. That's blocked practice. Interleaved practice, or what I call cross-training, and you're probably familiar with that from fitness or sports, is where you set a timer. It's good to have a timer, and practice. You're going to decide, I'm going to practice Mozart exposition of the concerto for 5 minutes, and I'm going to play it all slurred and really pay attention to intonation. Okay, go. And then so you've planned, and now you implement that. You do that. Bing! The timer goes off. Stop and assess. Okay, how's it going? What's going well? What needs to be better? Great. Then change topics. So you go to the Don Juan excerpt. You're going to do Strauss Don Juan. Okay, for 4 minutes, what am I going to do? I'm going to do it 3 times more slowly and really pay attention to beautiful finger movements and singing quality. Okay, great. Go. Do that for 4 minutes. Bing! Stop. Okay, how'd it go? What's better? What needs to be... And then go to a third topic, F major scale. Stop. Assess how it's going. And then go back to your Mozart exposition. Reboot it. Start that. Cross-training there's a lot of research, and feel free to Google this as well, that this dramatically improves the performance of athletes. But it works with musicians as well, so this is great. There's an app which I have no association with. You can use that. You touch the number of minutes you want down here, and it counts down for you while you're practicing your Mozart or practicing your F major, and then when it finishes, it goes bing, and it's a lot of fun. So that's called Metro Timer if you're interested. So cross-training. And you see it ticks all the boxes, doesn't it? It's highly structured, your quality, you're focused like mad, you're on task, and you're doing a variety. So boom, spectacular approach to practicing. Anybody can do it. If you're practicing in chunks of time, like 4 or 5 minutes, it's up to you. Maybe you want to do 10 minutes, okay. But by stopping and assessing, this also lends itself to avoiding certain pitfalls. I hear musicians complain about mindless practicing or frustrating practicing or whatever. This is kind of a panacea for avoiding all of those problems, because it's just short chunks of time and you're more likely to stay on, there it is, more likely to stay on task. But also, by stopping every few minutes and changing the topic of your practice, you also give yourself the opportunity to check how your body is. Hey, am I practicing with my head forward? Okay, yeah, I need to stay more balanced. You can check in on any topic that would be helpful for you. Do you need to take a walk? Maybe you just need to. And the person practicing for Mozart exposition for 25 minutes at a stretch, that's not necessarily bad, but they might be ingraining things that they don't really intend to ingrain. They might be not benefiting from freshening up every 4 or 5 minutes. So cross-training and helping to contribute to quality mental health and physical health. One indispensable approach to practicing for me is to play anything I'm going to play, anything, eliminate the repeated notes, eliminate the rhythm, eliminate everything except the notes and intervals. And just put the metronome on, maybe 60, slowly, and just play through the intervals of the piece. Just the whole thing, the whole concerto, everything. Just evaluating, noticing patterns, noticing does the thing repeats, when does the texture change, am I in tune, are my fingers moving well? Just from beginning to end, or from end to beginning, whatever you prefer, all of the intervals, all of the notes of the piece. And I feel as though that is an indispensable way to begin the relationship with the piece. It's successful, it's a varied way to do it, and it's high quality, so it checks those boxes. I often hear students say, yeah, I know, Professor LeClaire, I know I'm supposed to practice slowly, but my lesson's coming up, and I just give up and I just play it fast because I need to get ready. I know it's not intuitive, but slow practice is the fastest way to improve. We really, really need slow practice in order to gain mastery, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. And bearing in mind that practice is very, very lively mentally. So if I practice, where's my read? If I practice like this, in terms of slow practice, someone outside my door might think, oh, that's very simple. It's not simple at all what's going on in my mind. I'm thinking about my body, I'm thinking about you, I'm thinking about the B flat, I'm thinking about tuning, I'm thinking about my fingers, intonation. So it sounds simple, but it's not simple at all. Slow practice is the most complex. That's when you have the chance to think about lots and lots of stuff. So if somebody's saying, oh yeah, I'm supposed to play slowly, and they're just thinking, da, 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 no, that probably won't accomplish that much. Because we want to be planning, implementing, assessing with a lot of thoughtfulness. So practicing, slow practicing is super interesting, super lively, lots and lots going on mentally. How do you get from slow to faster? I think that question is common. Yeah, sure, I can play it slowly, but I have to play it at eighth note equals 178, right? Well, I think one key is never to jump to tempo, that you establish success at 5 times more slowly, and then success a little faster, success a little faster, success a little faster, and you just layer success, success, success. You never jump to a point where you're being unsuccessful. So I think that's a way to frame that. I have an example here that is a piece, it's a Vivian Fine Quintet. And the way it's written on the page, this is something that would be challenging. It's very, very fast, and it's very kind of unusual. And somebody was trying to play that, and she said, Jackie, no matter, I've practiced 1,000,000 times, and I just can't play it at tempo. I said, okay, so what was your slow practice like? And she went like this. Okay, so there's a misunderstanding. Even though the tempo is bada, 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 playing it as I just did is not slow practice. It is slower, but slow practice is very, very, very slow. Super slow. Why? It's like that cross-training. You get to plan, assess, implement, and assess. You need to assess what you're doing and plan what you're going to do next. Slow practicing is with a metronome. Maybe 2 seconds per note. And so on and so forth. That barely qualifies as slow practice in my book. You have time to think, plan, notice, remember. And now listen to these notes again. I'm going to tell you another practice technique in a second. This is the passage. And these are the same notes in a lower octave. Oh, sorry. These are the same notes again. So this is another indispensable tool of mine, whether it's Bach with big intervals or a modern piece with big intervals, major sevenths and minor ninths, like this, to take all the intervals bigger than a tritone and put them all in the same octave and practice it that way a lot and sing it with your voice that way a lot. I think for old music and new music, doesn't matter. Any interval bigger than a tritone, it's massively helpful. But it requires doing it about 5 times if you're going to practice it like that. And that transforms my relationship with the music, so that it's all singing. It's all vocal. It's all, because I think all music is singing and vocal. It might sound baka baka baka, but in my mind it's very personal and gestural and communicative and singing. So instead of practicing, to practice you could sing that right now. And that's how the music goes. And then when I pop out the intervals to be the big intervals, it's still singing and friendly in my mind. Just a word to the wise. Remember I said that in terms of the quality, there's structure, quality, variety to good practice. Along with the quality, beware false starts. You know, if you go, okay, I'm gonna play an F major scale. Okay. We can't do that on stage, can we? So anything you can't do on stage, don't do at home. Don't do practicing. Decide I'm going to play an F major scale, and I'll miss the first F. No, I tried to miss it, sorry. Okay, I messed up. I screwed up. I don't like it. Keep going. Suffer. He's made a mistake. Remember. So just no false starts. Decide what you're going to do. It's like cross-training. Decide what you're going to do it, and then assess it later. You don't get second chances. Again, your subconscious doesn't know false starts aren't the right way to do it. So anything you don't want on stage, you don't have in your practice. Here we go. Mental practice. Mental practice is super helpful and totally counts as 100% real practice. I sat on my sofa the other day and mentally practiced a piece I'm learning for about 10 minutes. Oh, I was exhausted after 10 minutes. I mean, if you're really practicing, if you're really, really going through it vividly and with tremendous focus, holy cow, that's really intense learning. So absolutely mental practice. You don't need this to practice. You play your instrument with your brain. Your brain can learn in all different ways. And by the way, you know, you don't want to be learning too much time holding the instrument, because playing related injury is super, super common. I mean, that reason alone is good reason to do a lot of mental practicing. Anything you're doing that is mental practice, don't do it at the piano, do it at the table. And then when you're ready, then you need your instrument. Great. So mental practice, fantastic technique. Another fantastic tool is to play long, short, short, short. I'll show you. The long note needs to be almost 2 full beats, and then the short note is super short and strong. You emphasize the short note and cool it on the long note. So I'll just do F major scale, and I practice all of my music like this. And then there's long, short, short. That's an F major scale in thirds, right? Believe it or not, what I'm about to play, again, is the same thing. That probably doesn't even sound like an F major scale in thirds to you. That's a great example of how varying something a little bit can dramatically change it. I'll play that again. That's the same as. So to play long, short, short, long, short, short, short. I'll try long, short, short, short. I don't know if I can do it. One, yeah. Because almost nothing is that fast. Deafness is not even that fast. So the short notes are very, very, very fast, and no cheating. Even if it's a big interval, it's fast. It's all slurred, no cheating. And the long note is long, long, long. And if you think, okay, I'm going to do that long, short thing Leclerc said, but I'm going to do it more, I'm going to do it just with a one beat on the long note. And I'm going to do it, so it's going to take half the time, I'm going to learn just as much. No, I think you won't. Why? It's back to that same thing. Planning, implementing, and assessing and remembering. By doing a long note, 2 seconds long, once you start, you can notice what just happened, what's coming up. So you're remembering, you're storing a memory, you're planning what you're about to do, and you're doing it. So I think you really need a long note. And again, it's back to that slow practice equals fast learning. If you practice faster, you lose the opportunity to do the actual learning part. And that's what happens when someone says, yeah, I could do it on Thursday, but on Friday I wasn't able to play it again. Yeah, fun. One fact I'll interject here is I recently read, I found really interesting. It was in that study on interleaved versus blocked practice. Musicians tend to like playing blocked practice, to practice in a blocked way, to just play something over and over again. It's reassuring, it's fun. But it doesn't really result in learning, interestingly enough. Playing something repeatedly the same way. It feels great. I do it, you do it, but if you find, I would recommend that if you're practicing, I do this, and you find yourself playing a passage over and over again, maybe 4 times, like, you know what? This is not checking the boxes. This is not variety. It might be quality, but we need variety. So it's interesting to know that we prefer, they polled some people who were part of a study, and even though interleaved or cross-training had better results, the participants still preferred blocked practice. So know that you might prefer it. That doesn't mean it's good for you, like cheeseburgers maybe. So just to realize that your preferences might lead you astray in an interesting sort of way. So that's the long, short, and then of course to do the other way around, short, long. Okay, so the short note is on the beat, and then short, long, short, long. Okay. That is, there's lots of music. And speaking of apps, someone just was saying something about metronome. There's lots of practice apps, and it's a moving target. And when I'm in person with people making this presentation, I demonstrate some apps. But just to say, there's lots. Tonal energy is very popular for drones. But Practice Plus, there's lots and lots out there, so I encourage you to check it out. And the next technique I'm going to say right now has to do with that. Record yourself every day. Record yourself often. Gone are the days when you just record yourself when you have a finished product or a special event. This is, now we can record ourselves with all of our devices. And so it's up to you what you want to use. I use something called music practice. You just record yourself and then you stop and you can play yourself. It automatically starts playing you back, and you can easily move a thing over to slow it down and evaluate your practice at a slower pace or a faster pace, whatever. So, but the message here is record yourself all the time. As experienced as I might be or someone else might be, I have the experience often. I record something I play and I think, wow, I was sure I did a crescendo. And lo and behold, I was thinking a crescendo, but is it audible? And so again, it's that humility. It's like, okay, I'm trying, but get that information from a third party and listen to yourself. Maybe it's only 22 seconds of playing, but you'll learn something in a different way. And it checks that box, quality and variety. Okay. Again, please use the chat if you have any questions or comments. We'll get to that later. Again, using an app to record another part. If you're practicing a slow movement concerto, like a clarinet concerto or a horn concerto, get the score. We want to practice with the score anyway, because you have to learn the piece, not just your part. That's always going to be the case. We want to use the score whenever possible, so you learn the entire work of art. and play into a device, record the first violin part, record the bass part, you can do it on piano, you can do it singing, you can do it with your oboe or flute, but record with, and I recommend putting the metronome in your ear so you hear it, but it's not audible in the room. And then you have the accompaniment, and you play with the accompaniment. This is more, so it's like a metronome, but even more useful because you're contextualizing. It's a varied way to practice, it's high quality way to practice, and it's structured. So the metronome's great, but the music is a lot more meaningful. So it's like a musicalized metronome. Record the other part to practice with. Make a custom click track if there's anything with mixed meter or something where the rhythm is something to be confused. I think gone are the days when we would get together for quintet or duo or trio and try to work out tricky meters. Simply, I'll give you an example of a piece I'm looking at. Take the phone or whatever to record it, start recording and say, okay, Vivian, fine, measure 78, 3 for nothing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2. Boom. How hard is that? That's really easy. And you record the click track like that in chunks, and then you practice with it. So you're practicing and you hear your own voice go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So you know immediately if you're right or wrong, and you can easily line up with it. And then you email that customized click track to your colleagues. You all practice with the same thing. You can show up for the first rehearsal and play through it. You memorize it. So rhythm problems are gone. Messiaen, Stravinsky, whatever, and all kinds of modern music. So customize a click track for yourself. It's really easy, and it is important though to put the metronome in your ear, an earbud, so that if you record something that's fast, you can record it slowly, and then speed it up. And since you're doing it, so you might record it like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. And then as you master the material, then you speed it up, the recording, and you'll hear 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So it's super, super helpful. Practice with drones frequently. Drones for adjusting to pitch, unless you're a pianist. But practicing with drones frequently, and tonal energy is very popular for that, but there's other ones as well. So these techniques that I've shared with you, again, if you'd like my complete list, it's a Word doc I can send to you. Just send me an email. My email is nuoboe@gmail.com. That's spelled NUOBOE@gmail.com. This is just a selection I presented. I find that if you practice with structure, with variety, and with high quality, it's a real mood lifter. It gives you a sense of accomplishment. It makes your brain happy. It does a lot of good things to help you. Another general topic I want to throw out here right now for you is careful of the words you use. Words matter. And I'll give you some examples. Don't rush. The brain understands that as rush. Don't be sharp on the E. Be sharp on the E. We're never together at measure 25. Never together at 25. So I recommend develop a severe allergy to the word don't. In my opinion, in music, the following sentence would be appropriate. Don't hit the violin with a drumstick. Yes, that is appropriate. Yes. Anything more sophisticated than that, you should not be using the word don't. And I know famous music teachers use. I'm just saying, what does work? Say what you want. If you're sharp on the E, it's like, okay, I gotta be really in tune on that E with a nice dark sound to be in tune with that C below. We're never together at 25. How can we be better at rehearsal 25? When we get to 23, maybe we need to really focus on rhythm and follow John, because he's got the steady 16ths. Let's be together at measure 25. I just think this is a kind of a big deal, actually, that might sort of fly under the radar with musicians. Words matter, and thoughts are actually actions. So say what you want. Always say what you want. What are you shooting for? It's a strong tendency, and do you see yourself in this? Are you saying what you don't want? A lot of people are. I think there's a lot of huge value as an educator, whether you're educating yourself or someone else. There's huge value to be found in resist the urge to say what you don't like or that's wrong. Focus on the positive. It really helps a lot. So to review, let's go over what we've talked about, and we'll go on to the oboist playing. Cross-training, or interleaved practice, very helpful. It's timed short blocks of practice. There's metro timer, which I showed you can use, or you can use any timer you want. So plan what you're going to do, implement it, do it, and stop. You have to stop and assess it, and then go to another topic. So rehearse topic A, topic B, topic C, and then go back to A, or maybe A, B, C, D, and go back to A. When you come out of your practice room and see your friend and say, hey, what are you doing? You practicing? Yeah. What did you just practice for 45 minutes? You can tell them in super detail everything you practiced. Your other friend will come out of the practice room next door, practicing the viola for 45 minutes, just kind of wandering and doing this and doing that. Hey, what are you practicing? Oh, I just got to get the Bach better for my lesson. And, they don't actually know very well what they just practiced. If you do cross-training, you know exactly what you're practicing and exactly what you're accomplishing. Super slow practice. Slow practice does not mean slower. Super slow practice means super slow. 2 seconds per note, roughly. Just incredibly slow. And that checks the box of it's unrecognizable to someone who knows the piece. So slow practice means super slow practice. Something I forgot to mention was varying the note groupings. If a piece of music is, that's an F major scale, but let's say it's a piece of music. If it's written, and you only play it that way, you're missing the variety, aren't you? So maybe put it, if it's in twos, put it in threes. Practice the passages of Mozart concertos, Don Juan. Put the metronome on two, start on two. Start on the third note, start on the fourth note. To go crazy with the metronome in terms of variety. That if you only practice it, start here in groups and fourths, start here groups and fourths, you won't master it as if you start in all different places of the passage and group it in as many different groupings as you can think of, at least 2, 3, 4, and 5, groups of 5. Okay? So vary the note groupings, very helpful. You might be surprised at how unrecognizable it is to you if you just simply group in 3 instead of 4. Any intervals bigger than a tritone, which is 6 half steps, bring the notes together into the closest formation you can, so you're not doing big jumps. Learn it like that. Sing it with your voice. So contracted intervals is very helpful. Long, short, long, short, short, long, short, 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 long, short, short, long, short, 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 long. There is a list of pieces I have performed and recorded I could not have done. I could not have performed them well, and I could not have recorded them well if I didn't use that. I used to call it the meat grinder, but I have a vegan student now, so I guess it's just the grinder. I know. Record and listen to yourself carefully every day. Every day. It's just super helpful. Other information. Because fun fact, I don't think I realized, when you're actually playing the oboe, or whatever, you can't really, you're not just listening, you've got a reed in your mouth, first of all, so acoustically it's not like someone hears it, you're hearing yourself differently, and you're planning and you're imagining how it goes. You imagine the E flat might not have spoken. You don't know. You probably think the E flat came out, but did it? A lot of people are surprised especially when playing faster material, that it's quite different from what they thought they played. So record yourself and listen to yourself all the time, every day. Practice with customized recordings of other parts of the piece you're playing, if there is another part. If you're playing an oboe clarinet duet, record the clarinet part and practice along with it. Use custom click tracks for mixed meters. Make the click track with your voice and then play along with your voice counting the meters. Practice with drones frequently for ear training, if you play an instrument where you're responsible for creating the intonation. Avoid thoughts and words of what you don't want. Use only thoughts and words of what you do want. So this wraps up my presentation about efficient practice. Ask yourself, is my practice highly structured? Is it variety? Am I playing all different techniques, all different ways? And is it all high quality? Everything I'm doing right now, I want on Carnegie Hall stage with me. If you say yes, you're doing fantastic practicing. All right. I'm going to give everybody the opportunity to unmute themselves.